What action can I take to affirm the dignity of myself and others? Thank you. Welcome back. We also have many people joining us online, virtually as well, to this event. Before we start off with a panel discussion, just wanted to share that this event is being hosted by the Brahma Kumaris World Spiritual University. This is an international non-NGO with the United Nations with an affiliation with ECOSOC. And we're spread out worldwide, you can see, on more than 110 countries and more than 9,000 centers worldwide. So doing multiple different varieties of work, also related to SDGs. And this event is being hosted by the Brahma Kumaris UN SDG team. And part of that is Sister Nidhi Shukla, who is our moderator for this event. And she's coming all the way from, I don't know if it's already up there. it could be a guesswork. Well, she flew all the way from London to be with us. And as you can see, she's young, passionate, dynamic, really passionate is the word I would say. When she gets on to something, she wants to do it from her heart. So we have the fortune of having her, and she's also involved in, she's a co-coordinator of our inner space in Wembley in London, and also the global coordinator for SDG 1 and 2 activities for the Brahma Kumaris. So young but experienced, and you will see the wisdom when you listen to her. So I welcome Sister Nidhi.
Thank you, and a warm welcome to everyone in person and those who are watching us online and fellow panelists. So welcome to everyone again. It's very interesting that Sister Kinnari was sharing about the whole event is on dignity. And the question is, what is dignity? Because today in this conference of CSocD, we're talking about policy making, we're talking about poverty eradication, we're talking about digital transformation. But where does that human touch disappear in all this process? So at the Brahma Kumaris, what we do is we emphasize the whole process to facilitate actually a process of just having a silent reflection and asking this question to ourselves, that what do I really mean by dignity? What is dignity for me? You know? And when I can uphold my own dignity, I think it will enable me to uphold the dignity of others. And with that aspect, we had a written statement, which we submitted at the UN. And the whole concept was about how a shift in awareness, in my awareness, can bring about a transformation into a person which is just next to me. And that shift in awareness can be contagious. And together we can create a community which is not just working in collaboration, but working with love. Working in collaboration might we have competition, might have other agendas, but when we are united as a family and we uphold the dignity with unity, we can do wonders. And that's what our written statement is. That you can have a scanned code here on the screen if you want. And I think there are some papers there as well on your desk where you can scan this code and read about the written statement that we have done. But moving forward, on this topic. We've got Maryann with us, we've got Danilo with us, and we've got Bhanu, who is joining us online all the way from India. And I really appreciate you, Bhanu, joining us because it might be late night in India right now, and you're with us. So thank you so much for that. So I would now introduce our rich, experienced panel to you. And over to you, Danilo. I want to ask you, what is dignity for you personally? And the work that you do, it's amazing because it aligns with the work that we do at the Brahma Kumaris. But can you give us a concrete example or something that you want to share about the work that you do with us?
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Sister Nidhi. And thank you everyone for being here today, because we are participating of an initiative that actually brings a different approach to the topics that are being discussed during this Commission on Social Development. And when we have here within the United Nations so many specialists bringing different, policies and approaches, what we see is that everybody is trying to share their best practices, and we are not different in that sense. Because as the Legion of Goodwill or the Brahma Kumaris and many other wonderful organizations that are peace-centered and also acknowledge the ecumenical spirituality as part of the process of social transformation, we also have our unique approach. We also propose a different view for the solutions that are required to overcome poverty. So this topic, restoring human dignity as a natural resource, invites us to really look at it in a inner perspective. We have to really start looking in ourselves and the very core values and principles that makes us human beings, right? Because this invites us to look at one another, perceive us, one another, respect each other, and most importantly, care for one another. And this is a commitment that we all have as human beings in society. This is a commitment that was reinforced within the United Nations according to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, because the big promise there is that we want that every single individual in the world are given access to human rights. So access to basic support. So this is a big promise. And we are not just there. If we look at the very core principles that form the United Nations itself, we will see that there is the main goal of this organism, which is to save the future generations from the scourge of war, according to the UN Charter. And what we see nowadays is that we are still facing a lot of these challenges. Actually, recently, in the late years, the world is facing with many armed conflicts. We face with a lot of inequalities. We still face with the increase of hunger, of poverty in the world. So we are not there yet. We have to make changes in the systems so we can achieve these goals and fulfill these goals. And most importantly, feel that we are happy as human beings. So dignity is related with true happiness. So when we look at one another and when we see that everybody is taken care of, then we can say that we are experiencing dignity. If everybody is happy enough, we are experiencing dignity, not just within us, but also in the whole society. So I would start my presentation actually with this quote of the president of the Legion of Goodwill, José de Paiva Neto, when he actually teaches that to combat the globalization of poverty, we counterpose the globalization of fraternity, which spiritualizes and ennobles the economy and disciplines it in a solidary way as a strong instrument for reacting to the pseudo-fatalism of poverty. Pseudo-fatalism, because poverty is not a normal thing. Poverty is not a natural thing. Poverty is an anomaly. Poverty is a diagnosis that pushes us to react to it and do things to make a change. So the work of the Legion of Goodwill that I represent here is one example and could serve as a model of how actually we should address the challenges for fighting poverty through the work of a civil society organization that is based on promoting social assistance, humanitarian services, education with ecumenical spirituality. This is a very unique approach, because when we look at the history of the Legion of Goodwill back in the 1940s, when the late founder of the organization, he was a very famous radio broadcaster, Alziro Zarur, and it was in the moment that the world was finishing the Second World War, the UN was being created, and everybody in the entire planet was concerned about, having new wars coming after such a bad experience through the Second World War. And then he abandoned his career, and then he felt in his heart a spiritual call to devote his life from that point on to something that would make a difference in the world. So he made two things, and this is highlighted as something that could provide as an inspiration, because this resulted in the creation of a very large organization present in 7 countries nowadays. So he first came to the communication. So because he was a radio broadcaster, a very famous person, he used the radio to engage the population, to form initiatives and inspire people to come back to what they believe. And actually he proposed, because Brazil is a very large Christian country, but he proposed the study of the teachings of Jesus in an ecumenical way, meaning expanding the concepts that would be only restricted to the religion, to a religion system, but expand and make sense to these universal teachings to make an impact in the society. So through his teachings on radio, this called the Goodwill Hour, he engaged everybody in the entire country to do something to improve the quality of life of those who are in need. And the second biggest action and strategy that he implemented in the beginning of the Legion of Goodwill was to articulate the leaders of different religious beliefs. And he visited personally to form the first ever documented in Brazil, the first interfaith meeting, bringing these different religious leaders together in the Brazilian Press Association headquarters in Rio de Janeiro. And in the end of the 49, in the beginning of the 1950, he invited everyone. What if we put aside our differences in our beliefs and then created a neutral field where we can practice our faith into action? So that was the idea behind the first actions of the Legion of Goodwill. So fast forwarding, and we see here in the presentation, now under the administration and leadership of José de Paiva Neto, who was the successor of Alziro Zarur in 1979, he expanded the organization in 7 countries, and we now have community centers of social assistance, schools. We also have homes for the elderly and humanitarian campaigns that are present in 7 different countries, besides Brazil, where we were founded back in 1950, January 1st. We are also present in Portugal, Bolivia, Paraguay, Uruguay, Argentina, and also here in the United States of America. We form a network of 92 social educational centers across 7 countries. Next, please. And we impact nowadays about 700,000 people every year through social assistance, humanitarian services, and education with ecumenical spirituality. Next, please. So the goals that are aligned with the work of the Legion of Goodwill are these from the 17 SDGs, the number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8, 10, 11, 16, and 17. But most importantly, we are very focused on the goal number 4, because when we see about making a change of consciousness, as you started in this conversation, we need to revisit the strategies that we have through education. So in order for us to make a change in society, to see a world that everybody is engaged and prepared to make the change, we need to use the strategies of education to achieve that goal, but not just any education. And actually, I usually cite Paivaneto because he has many books talking about this unique educational approach of the Legion of Goodwill. And this one is, it's urgent to re-educate, when he talks about forming brain, but also heart, meaning we should never just feed the intellect, but also the good feelings, because the biggest strategy here is not to have bright ideas, but also great feelings associated with any solution that is proposed. And to finish this presentation, this introductory presentation, I cite also his book when he says, take care of the spirit, reform the human beings, and everything else will transform for the better.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the amazing work that your organization is doing. And we have Maryann with us she's the UN representative for ATD, All Together in Dignity for USA. And over to you, Maryann. It's lovely to have you.
Thank you so much. At first, I'd like to thank Brahma Kumaris for this opportunity to speak with all of you today. And as was just mentioned, I especially appreciate this topic because knowing that HSD stands for All Together in Dignity, and that's actually the barometer that we use to measure our work and our practices that we do by. So I want to tell you a little bit about ATD Fourth World. We are a global movement that was founded 60 years ago in a shanty town in France by people living in poverty and allies that were working with them. So it's a joint movement. It wasn't a top-down movement. It was a together movement from the very beginning. So they partnered together to work to fight to end poverty. On the ground, we are designing and implementing projects with people living in extreme poverty in more than 30 countries. These projects are centered on the strengths and aspirations of the people in these communities in a way that challenges traditional power relationships that people in poverty often experience. Participation is always number one with ATD Fourth World because the participation of people directly impacted by poverty is at the core of who we are, how we started together as allies and people with a direct experience. It's at the core of who we are and what we do. So their intelligence, their experience, and their knowledge contribute to the design and implementation of anti-poverty solutions. So from the very beginning to the implementation in the middle, and then to the end to the critical review, all the way through. And this is at the local level, a national level, and international level here at the UN. We think, act, and decide and learn together through pilot projects and research that inform future projects in our advocacy strategy. This core principle is followed in the work we do at the United Nations and at the European Union. So it's not just, it's worldwide, starting from the ground level that feeds to national, to feeds to international. And very important again to come back to the idea of how this organization was started. It was started by a group of people, started by Father Joseph Brzezinski in the shantytown in France, who went to work with people that were living in this town that had extreme poverty, and nobody else in the town around would want to work with them. And when he was there, he's like, no, these are my people, because he also came from experience of poverty, and started working with them to help by asking them, what do you want? What do you need? How can we achieve this together? Opposed to a lot of organizations that parachute into some place, tell people, this is what I think we need, and we're going to get it. And so when we talk about dignity, respecting people's wants, needs, their ideas, their voice, helping them find their voice if they haven't had it because no one's listened to them for so long. This is the way that it's done, to respect the person and what their ideas are, and to be a true ally to people, to work alongside you. This is what you want. I will help you. How can I help you? So that is the main point of how we respect people's dignity, how we work in honor that in everything that we do.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So we've got a very interesting combination here because Legion of Goodwill believes dignity is all about happiness and being happy and providing happiness to each other. And Maryann, you're suggesting is about respect. And I think we have our third speaker, and that's Brother Bhanu. He's from India and he'll join us online right now. And he's got a very unique combination of working with young people on this field and coaching them digitally, and also has a blend of spiritual influence in his personal life and at the work. So I will invite Bhanu Prasad all the way from India to be with us and share about himself and his work that he's been doing. Over to you, Brother Bhanu.
Hello, everyone. I hope you can all hear me.
Yes.
Okay, great.
See you as well.
It's wonderful to actually join all of you there, albeit virtually, but I feel I am there with all of you. So wonderful to join you there. So I have this unique opportunity to love the work that you do, and also happens to be a lifestyle that I have been living over the last 2 decades. So it's very rarely you get this opportunity to combine a lifestyle that you love with the work that I do. So at the Brahma Kumaris, I've had this opportunity to volunteer with youth, with technology professionals, and bring about social change using reflective practices and meditation. And at work over the last 7 years or so, I have actually been focusing on using technology for social good and encouraging young people around the world to use technology to solve some of the most pressing social challenges that are around us. And we do this by encouraging them to become change makers and even social entrepreneurs. And in the process of doing this, we have encountered several projects that seem to be so closely related. One of the things that is really personally very close is the Raj Rishi project. At the Brahma Kumaris, we started this small initiative where low resource setting villages, where there are challenges that are all interlinked, can be overcome by making small changes in the community and bringing in confidence that actually I can contribute to bringing in small amounts of change. And when that initial positive transformation is witnessed, there is this resurgence of optimism and hope in the community that they can actually do bigger things and bring about larger change. And our role in this initiative is to empower and spark that initial desire for transformation, both transformation within themselves and transformation for the community. And then each member of the village becomes an active contributor towards this transformation. And of course, in this project, it's also an example of how we collaborated with the government, with other NGOs, with the corporates, and several volunteers to bring about this sustainable transformation. It's a very good project as an example that we feel is ready to be scaled and replicated, where villages can actually become model villages and others can emulate the success and the quality of life change that can come out by bringing about individual transformation that can lead to community transformation. Also at the Brahma Kumaris, there is another initiative which is called the Digital Wellness Program. And in this initiative, we are looking at young individuals, youth from across the country, young working professionals who constantly use technology. Like almost there is a phone, there is a tablet, there is a computer in front of all of us right now. All of us consume technology, but how could we make this consuming technology more responsible? How can we understand more responsible consumption of technology and take care of our own health and mental well-being? So digital wellness ambassadors is our objective. So we want to create as many young digital wellness ambassadors across the country who can spread this message and create this positive transformation. So this is about the work of bringing in spirituality and using the network of the Brahma Kumaris to bring about social change. Luckily for me, even at work, we believe in similar philosophy of how do we maximize the potential that is there within each individual change makers. So at work, we believe in maximizing the potential of the young innovators who can solve social challenges in a more sustainable way. If you go to the next slide, please. Yeah, so we take a human-centric approach in building all our transformations. Even though we use technology, we believe that human beings who use these technologies and who build these solutions come first. And for us, it starts with understanding the people first, empathy maximization. And as we understand people and understand their needs, understand their wants, and then we are able to maximize the possibility that technology can offer to us. And with that comes delivering value. When we solve a problem, when we change someone's life, comes value, and then we can maximize the value. So these are sort of our three pillars on which we operate. I am blessed to feel that I have both my personal and work life sort of merged so seamlessly with the work that I do. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Bhanu. So the audience here is now very well aware of our panelists. So I'm not going to take much time and we'll jump straight into panel discussion. And the first part of the panel discussion will be a few questions that I'll pose to the panelists. But later, I would want you all to think and ask questions, not just as a participants, but as our dignitaries as well. So you can also share your thoughts. So what we heard by all the three participants, panelists right now was about upholding human dignity by having an interpersonal relationship, like having one-to-one individual personalized relationship. And what I've seen that when we implement poverty response initiatives, we often engage with many individuals in our lives and with various backgrounds and various circumstances, not just backgrounds, but different circumstances. And our experience indicates that the most lasting impact can only be created when we focus empowering individual transformation. Now, Maryann, you have personal stories, and I know that. So the first question I would like to ask you is, how do you incorporate a vision of unity and dignity when working with individuals in challenging situations?
So there's 3 points that I'd actually like to touch upon that are interconnected to be able to answer that question. Time, trust, and again, participation. You need to take time with people to build relationships that aren't just purely transactional. We're friends, I'm talking to you because I need to find this out. No, we're building a relationship because we're connecting on a human level first. And so that's the most important thing that you need to realize when you work with people, because you need to put relationships above the gender points. You need to meet people in their neighborhoods, share a meal together, listen to their struggles, find out what makes them, but not just that, you also need to find out what makes them proud. You can't just trauma bond with people because then you're only seeing one aspect or one dimension of a person. You need to find out, these are your struggles, but what makes you happy? What are you proud of? What have you to build that relationship with people, And the trust that comes from the relationship building allows you to move past the roadblocks. The walls that have been built up by over years by enduring the othering that people in poverty experience. Well, you're not like one of us, you're one of those people, and then also to have the systemic racism that people experience, the marginalization, and this allows people to know that you're going to assure them that what they share with you as we build this relationship and we talk and we get to know each other, that's not going to turn around and be weaponized against them, because we've had this trust with each other. We've talked, we've shared a meal. I told you about my family. I learned about your family. So there's a bond there, Trust does take time, but it's well invested. So yes, it's not happen overnight. You need to be with a community, be with people to understand them. And it does take time, but it is very well worth it. Because if you take the time to get to know people, are consistent with what you do, are honest, from the very beginning, don't say, oh, we're going to here to solve all the problems. No, we may not be able to try this, but we will try that. but we will work together. You need to be honest from the very beginning with people because they expect that from you, that you're giving them that respect to be honest with them. People will begin to loosen their protective guards, and then they will share their truths with you. You know, if they're used to being treated a certain way, they build up a guard and won't tell you. But after you build that relationship, it becomes easier to work with people or to have a one-on-one with people. The participation, people have a right to name their experiences for themselves. They also have a right to say in policy and the best practices that affect their daily lives, as well as the critical review policy of those policies. Full and equitable participation of people impacted by poverty that is not conducted in a paternalistic way or paternalistic manner, respects the inherent dignity of people. And once you can have that full participation, if you take the time to create the trust and build the relationships.
Thank you so much, Maryann, because you spoke about inherent dignity, and when time, trust, and participation is involved, there is that hidden potential that we can bring that emerges and comes on the surface. So thank you. And you spoke about policy. And coming to you, Danilo, often during implementation, based on your rich experiences, when practitioners try to improve work at grassroots level or try to refine policies, what do you think? In what ways can the grassroots organization effectively influence policymakers and contribute to shaping poverty elevation policies?
Well, grassroots organizations have a key role to implementing policies that would be poverty alleviation policies, more specifically. Because even the United Nations recognized this back when it started, that it's not just about a top-down approach. We have to look at the grassroots. We have to take pulse of the situation in the different locations. Policies are not just one size fits all. On contrary, actually, we need to assess and hear the different needs and create solutions that would be inclusive, diverse, also equitable for everyone. And that's a big challenge. So the civil society organizations serve as an important source of information and innovative approaches for the policymakers. Because as a civil society organization, we have the ability of promoting advocacy and lobbying, community engagement and organization, coalitions with partners, strategic partners. We can help providing research and analysis for the problems that we are tackling within our work. We have strategies to implement direct engagement, promote capacity building and empowerment of the community. And one thing that I want to highlight is actually the use of media and communication in this process, because one thing that is very important for us to create and implement a policy that really be effective in resolving any social issue, that always starts with creating awareness of the problem and exploring the different solutions that we can implement to really resolve that problem. And the communication and media has been present in the work of the Legion of Goodwill since its inception. And nowadays, we see a great effort of the president of the Legion of Goodwill, Paiva Neto, and keep the work of the Legion of Goodwill also through radio, TV stations, publications, books, magazines, also creating this awareness now online, which, internet became the most important way of communication. So through portals, through social media, and keep contact, keep this connection with the individuals, because a policy that works is a policy that is really connected with individuals directly. And through this communication, we also try to inspire people for not just be aware of the problem, but also feel themselves as solutions for that problem, because we should never see or perceive individuals as the source of problem, but actually as the source of the solution. Everybody is capable of becoming an agent to help resolve that issue. And it's a matter of really inspiring these individuals. So through the communication, we always talk about having your accomplishing faith, meaning that you need to connect what you believe with what you do, right? So practice of what you believe. And in any religious system, or even those who do not believe in God or are not religious, but believe in goodness, which is pretty much the same thing, we all are committed in putting this belief into practice as a means to really create a self-realization. So, and I could, for instance, remember here, for those who know the gospel of Jesus, when we see like those asking the Lord, when did we see you thirsty or hunger or naked? And we helped you, Lord. And then the Lord responds, so every time, whatever you did for one of these least brothers or sisters of mine, you did for me. So it is a matter of connecting what you believe into actions, because the acts of compassion or actions of solidarity should not be just a choice, but the right choice we have to make every single day to fulfill our moral duty to make this difference in the world.
Thank you. It's very interesting that you bring about and touch on compassion and empathy in each one of us to give a nudge to the policymakers. But I have a question for the audience here. How many times we have experienced that the policies have been created, but the recipients are not happy with the policies? Because the irony of life is that the policy is being created for public, but they forget the public, right? And what happens is sometimes the resources, like our grassroots experiences from the Brahma Kumaris, is that often the resources are very limited. And initiatives are focused on one particular region. And sometimes what happens is that we don't have the flexibility to execute those policies according. I might have a personal relationship with you, but I know you are in need. The policy says that, but am I able to help you through that policy? And for this question, I would ask Bhanu. Can you just have Bhanu on screen, please? Bhanu, a question like, how can diverse NGOs collaborate without competition and join forces to strengthen the impact of policy response initiatives? Bhanu, can you answer that question, please?
Sure. So one of the things that we tell our volunteers, our change makers, young ones who are actually stepping into this field is, in the field of social development and impact, there's actually nothing called, nobody who is a competition. Everybody is a potential collaborator. Now, this requires a shift in perspective. This requires a change in the way we approach our work. Just keep collaborators and competitors aside. The first question to ask ourselves is, what is it that I can contribute, right? So now, if I am a contributor and not a collaborator or a competitor, then my perspective changes. So how is it that I could contribute? So the question to ask myself is, what is my core strength, both as an individual and the organization that I represent? For example, at the Brahma Kumaris, it is our ability to use reflective practices of meditation to transform individuals and the communities. So if I were to do that, then that's my core strength. That's my core competence. I'm not good at everything else. I'm good at this. This is my core strength. Now I'm going to find partners and collaborators who can actually help me with everything other that this project needs. So recently, for example, when we launched our digital wellness initiative, our focus, our strength is in the ability to bring reflective practices, the science of meditation, the science of relaxation into bringing in digital wellness awareness and action. So we collaborated with scientists, with academicians, with educators, with the government to make sure that the rest of the ecosystem is ready. And then we brought in what we had to offer with respect to solutions or approaches to handle digital toxicity that's sort of increasing in the world. And this is the way we could create an initiative that is adopted by several people. And this applies both at work as well as in initiatives that we do in the social sector as well. I think the shift in perspective that is needed is understanding what is my core competence. Even in the teams that we operate, do I understand my strength, and can I plug my strengths into the needs of the team member that is working along with me? If I can do that with local teams, it's almost like charity begins at home. If I can do that in my local team, in my own organization, then as an organization, I can then plug in my competencies into other competencies of other organizations. That way, I think we will make sure that all the resources, even though they're constrained, even though there are less, we'll be able to make the full use of all those resources that are available to us. So it requires a slight change in perspective, that we become a contributor and neither a collaborator or a competitor first.
Thank you. Thank you for the last comment. It's very interesting to be a contributor instead of being a collaborator or a competitor. And I would ask the question to the audience. Before we started the conversation and this event, we had a moment of silence, which was a different dimension from the digital, all the tech things that were going on in the room. And then we had a moment with ourselves. What was your experience in that moment? Did that help you to connect with yourself and understand your own core competency or your own strength? Or was it that we had that moment, but still we were disconnected with ourselves? What was your experience? Anybody? See, it's making you all think. I think that's a good answer. So that's what I want to bring in the room right now. Another dimension, and it's all about digital technology, because I can see all of us are with gadgets right now. So this is a question to all our participants, and it would be nice to have Bhanu on screen as well, that when technology can act as an enabler of transformation of collaboration, it is hard to imagine that we can have any initiative which is without technology. You mentioned, Danilo, that communication was used through different sources of media and other resources. So we often find that technology can amplify the impact of the work we do. But however, the question that I would want to pose right now here is, what are your experiences of using technology in your initiatives? And the other question, can you share a set of principles that you use or guidelines that you follow to balance out the scaling impact using technology, and at the same time not excluding the potential users who may find it hard to use technology? Because when we speak about poverty, there might be regions where it's hard for technology to prevail and use. But yeah, the question is open to all three of you. So whoever wants to go first. I'm just being aware of time, so I would like to keep it a bit brief, but yes.
I'll go real quick.
Yes.
But I do want to go back for a moment. When you were talking about, you said policymakers policy, but then the public don't like it. Actually, ATD Fourth World has created a new tool that helps create people, that allows people with direct experience of poverty to work with policy makers to understand, like, and review it. Like, as I said, design, implementation, because policy makers make policy, they never go back and check the implementation of it. And we're going to be talking about that at the World Bank on February 15th, so you can learn about that online. We always, regardless of whether it's a virtual or in person, we set the conditions for participation. In person meaning, can you come? Do you have train fare to get there? Do you have bus fare to get there? Do you have childcare? For virtual, do you have a computer? Do you know how to use it? Are you going to be able to connect by phone? If we're doing a workshop, and we're expecting you to fill in a PowerPoint or do a Jamboard or something like that, and you don't have that level of competency, we make sure that there's somebody that you can say your answers to, and we will fill that in for you. So regardless, what we ask a person with technology is to be present. COVID, everybody got a crash course in how to do it immediately. But even prior to that, when we were in the US and other countries, we're doing our report on multidimensional aspects of poverty. Our national research team was located in New York, in Boston, and Gallup, New Mexico. We could not have team meetings together every month. We met virtually all the time, you know, and so but we worked again at where people were. We'll create the slideshow, we'll talk with you. If you're not able to come to a meeting, we can have a meeting on Facebook Messenger. Whatever is convenient for you is how we worked with technology, because this should not be a hindrance to participation. You know, it's my responsibility. It's all of our responsibility to make sure that participation is easiest for other people. So we work around that. So that's how we work with technology, but also a lot of the times when I said before that you follow people's agenda, you don't look for people for your agenda. A lot of the times when we had the meetings, technology could be cold, like, you know, we're just here, we're looking at a screen. But because we took time to build up that relationship, if we could tell if you're having a bad day, okay, let's throw out the agenda, let's talk about it. What are you going through? You know, how can we work together on this? You know, so it doesn't have to be cold just because you're on a screen. It's just like the same thing. We're here together. It's how you interact with people with the technology that you have.
Bhanu, do you want to add something to this? Because you have a hands-on experience on digital wellness course that you have in a 2-credit course that is being connected with the university and people have done course. What is your experience and what would you add on to this question?
Right. So what you're referring to is a pilot program that we launched a few weeks ago with one of the largest universities in India for their engineering students to test the digital wellness course. So this is a course that is part of their curriculum now, and they get an opportunity to test the course and understand what digital wellness is and how you can start incorporating practices that will help them overcome any negative effects of digital use, technology use that they may have underwent. All of this is what is interesting here is as we developed the course, we were developing the course as practitioners who are already users of technology. We have decades of experience of using all of these things. But the people delivering the course are not necessarily experts at technology, not necessarily experts at the scientific nature of understanding the brain and science and so on. So even the curriculum was developed in such a way that it could be delivered by anyone, and it could be consumed, it could be actually taken up by anybody. So making sure that you take a very human-centric approach, that the human comes first, and then comes the technology. I think that's at the heart of it. A big realization for us also, even at work, is we believe that technology really very rarely solves the problem on its own. It's usually a very human problem. It's something to do with the relationship or something to do with a human being experiencing and overcoming a challenge. Technology amplifies the impact that that solution can have, but very rarely is the solution in itself. The other thing is very important where it connects to spirituality is sophistication is not the answer. Complex technology is not the answer. It's usually more difficult to make technology simple. And making a technology simple requires stillness, requires our own mind to become more calm so that we can actually think of simpler solutions and not be too actively thinking about and making complex solutions. I think that's the real place where I think the spiritual approach, taking a very human-centered, spiritual approach, simplifies technology so the technology goes to the background and the human comes in the front.
Thank you. Thank you for keeping humans in the front. Because these days, technology, the baby is born and it's been given a gadget too. So thank you, Bhanu, for your response. And before I open the floor to interactive discussion, Danilo, do you want to add something to this?
Sure. Yeah, I would like to start responding your two questions with one answer. Actually, you asked about the importance of the moment of silence we had in the beginning and now the digital transformation. I think these two things are very important. They are two important components that must work together because in addition to advancing technology, we also need to advance the moral, the ethical, and the spiritual values that will drive this tool into really bringing more solutions and not creating more problems. So technology is really a tool. It's like if you are given like a faster car, right? You're already driving a car, and then technology gives you a faster car. Now the question is, what is your direction? Because if you are headed to the abyss, you're going to get there faster. That's the problem. But if you are then headed to the right path or going up the hill to, for the constructive progress for everyone, then you're going to go there faster. So dealing with technology is really also about asking how we are prepared to deal with technology and how can we really make use and make these technologies applicable to making good, right? To making positive changes in the society. So in the Legion of Goodwill, as everybody, I think we saw the importance of technology, especially during the pandemic, because when everybody was simply forced from one day to the other to stay isolated, protected at home. Imagine for an organization like us and as many other programs, social and educational programs in the world, how do you face this new environment, right? So we were forced to make a lot of assessments. And knowing your target population is key to understand if that technology is going to be useful and really apply only if necessary and in response to the specific needs of where you are. So, for instance, we have our students of our schools, they were, forced to go back to home. And we realized that actually, especially in Brazil, they all had access to a phone, but they did not have access to internet. So we had to form a strong and special campaign within the Legion of Goodwill to raise funds and make possible to purchase and give internet chips for the clients that we serve through our social and educational services, because they all had, the equipment, but they didn't have the access to internet. So these are the things we have to ask us all the time. What is the technology solution that we really need for that specific need? So I listed a few things that we have to keep in mind.
Can I just ask you to be brief because we're running short of time.
Sure.
And I want to open the floor.
Accessibility, user-centered design, digital literacy and training, multi-channel approach, see if this is affordable, cultural sensitivity, data privacy and security. So these are all aspects that we have to keep in mind when proposing the use of technology in terms of improving the impacts that you want to achieve.
Interesting. Very interesting. And I'm sure you all are also thinking about what our panelists are sharing. So over to you. Any questions?
Can I?
Yes, please.
Thank you very much. I know I came in a little late, but I've gotten the sense of.
So can I just excuse you for a minute? Bhanu, can you hear what what one of our participants is sharing? Is he
maybe you could repeat it as well. I'll try, but yeah, please go ahead.
Right. I'll stand just to facilitate, if I may. I'm saying thank you very much for the contribution, invaluable. And just to highlight the point that has come up, the significance of spirituality. Because here, I think the essence is is to address this interconnection of faith and policy, faith in action, and therefore the paramount importance of what Danilo has pointed out, the other panelists as well, of the moral, spiritual dimension into this. And there is a philosophical saying that the hand can go only as far as the heart. If you start off with the hand first, without thinking about the implication, the impact of that, then you may not get the desired impact. So that's important. And I work with grassroots women, orphans, and widows. So that's my spiritual calling, mostly. And I was very happy to get the confirmation from all the panelists, especially that it happened to me by experience. First time I got a project grant from UNESCO, and basically the idea was to empower the widows and orphans in skills training. And it was in fact, it was, and the question was, I went over to the women, and the women were asking, I said, what can I do for you? What can we do for you as a project? And the women were asking me, and I said, no, I'm just here to help. You know the problems, you know the solutions. I'm here to see how best I can help do that. So I was very much.
Thank you.
The second point I just want to make is the need for confidence, that faith among the grassroots organizers, etc. It's extremely important to assert that faith, that confidence, and especially in our interface interactions with the policymakers, okay, and including, of course, the United Nations, UNDP, UNICEF, etc. Why? Because I've heard it said almost on a yearly basis. The NGO branch, for instance, an ECOSOC branch, will make the point that they regard NGOs as essential, underlying essential partners in the implementation of UN programs. You hold that to them and hold everybody, we should hold each other to account. So we should, when you are we deal with governments, local or central, etc. Go there, approach them with confidence. We are equal partners, essential partners. Without us as grassroots, no policy will be implemented to a desired impact. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Chabal. And he's the permanent representative of Zambia, right?
Yes.
Okay. So thank you for sharing your inputs. And just having the limitation of time, I would just go on to, is there any other last question that we could take? Yes.
I am very moved.
Could you just say a bit louder so the people online can hear you as well?
I'm Shukla Chair for the HIH headquarters here in New York. I am very much moved by your explanation of how you view dignity, unity, and the spirituality, this nature that revolves around us humans. So how about some more focus on all the other entities of the planet, living and not living, so that we can live sustainably and also in harmony, and so that we can reduce poverty, reducing the number of conflicts and wars that damage living as well as non-living. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody wants to share?
The way that we try to work is we look at everything holistically. We do. People are always sensitive first. So what is affecting people's life, whether it be the community that they're living in, the disinvested community, and what the community needs, and what they tell us they need. To look at the environment, the social and environmental justice of the community and what they need. And if there's peace in their neighborhood and in their community, and how they would like to what they would like to best do to try to work towards achieving all of those things. Peace in their community, social and environmental justice. So basically the way that we do it is through the people. So like I cannot personally tell you, this is what we do to work towards peace, because we follow the lead of the people and what they want. We try to make sure, like here at the UN and in other places around the world, at the EU and even in local and nationally, we share our space so people's voices can be heard, So they can best speak to people, as the former ambassador just said, you know, NGOs are crucial to hold the policymakers to task. We see that the people in the community and the activists, as we say, with the best experience to be able to inform people, and we create that space for that knowledge exchange to happen. I hope that was it. I hope that was fine.
Because I'm thinking about so oneness is nature. So when something terrible happens to you, people in underserved communities suffer most.
Yeah.
So, you know, so you have to talk about the climate change, the nature. So how to do this by using spirituality, unity, and dignity. These three concepts could help people to aware and empower, you know, all of us to help, you know, the people who need help more efficiently, I thought, in a happy way.
I would just suggest, just seeing the time and we need to wrap up, but I would just suggest that you could go online to the Brahma Kumaris Initiative for Environment and see how we work, but exactly what you are sharing with us and what we want to. So you'll get all the information there on our website. So now we move on to the next level, and we spoke about the human touch. We spoke about being with ourselves. So I would like to invite our sister from Sister Karen. Are you there? Yeah, she's the program director from Tampa, and she's here with us. Hello, Karen. Can you see us? Can you hear us? We can't hear you.
Hear me now?
Yes. So Sister Karen is the program director from our center in Tampa, and I would request her to have a very short meditation with us so that we can all have that experience of human dignity in this room. Over to you, Karen.
I take a deep breath and slowly let it out. Take another deep breath. Quiet my mind. I go beyond my roles, responsibility. Take a moment to connect with my true self, my inner being. I focus on my own dignity based on my own inner goodness and beauty. I remind myself of my own strengths and virtues. I now turn my attention outwards to my world family. I contemplate how I can use my own special gifts to help create a world where everyone is taken care of. A world that is connected and upholding each one's dignity as I would uphold my own. I bring optimism and hope to bring a larger change based on building trusting relationships. I visualize myself connecting my beliefs to my actions. And I see myself as an important conduit for change. through my loving, compassionate, empathetic actions. I can help uplift, empower others and the world. Om Shanti, I am peace.
Thank you. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, everyone. Now I would like to invite Sister Savita to share a thank you note for the evening.
Thank you, Nidhi. Hello, friends. My part is very simple, but I would like to add a little bit to it because it was such a nice conversation. And I'm watching all of you in between and let me see how they are responding to what they are hearing. And so I just want to kind of reinforce this aspect that came up from all of our panelists in just very simple layman language. And that is, if I don't have it, I can't give it, right? If I don't have enough in my pocket, what am I gonna really give? But whatever little I have, only that much I can give. And sometimes we say even if it is just one drop, it can make a difference, which is very true. But when we look at the scale of poverty in our world, we need a little bit more than just one drop. So this is why we actually chose this topic of human dignity, because it is such a missing element. And it also means that I have to, so important, to uphold my own dignity to such an extent that I am able to help the other to recognize their own worth and help them to upgrade themselves without they feeling that they are in poverty. Or, we know we have more than you, so we are here to help you. So I really like the way that came across, so that I'm here to help you because you have less and I have more, but we are friends. And we can only be like that when we really value our own self. Because how I see myself is how I'm gonna see the other. So I would really want to thank everybody for everything that was said here this morning, this afternoon. And I really do wish that all of you leave this room. I hope you are leaving this room with a few steps higher in your own dignity. So as you step out there, we lift, right? We lift the energy, we lift the frequency. Everybody's talking about poverty all around the UN, but let us lift that energy up so that solutions are taking place rather than problems. Let's do that. Let's make a change. Let's go out there and be the solution, be the change maker. We heard it for 1 hour. So let's go out there and do something different. Meaning we don't have to physically do that, you do also, but your energy that you take out of there. Right? Take that with you, make a difference, and bring it into your everyday. So that's what I want to add. And so, of course, say thank you so much to Maryann and the ATD Fourth World. Thank you, Nidhi, for leading us into this wonderful conversation. Thank you, Danilo and the Legion of Goodwill for accepting and being here and sharing all the good work. And of course, Bhanu, who's online, and of course, Karen. And I cannot say finished without saying thank you, of course, to Kinnery for opening remarks. And she's actually, her and Nidhi are the ones that hold our SDG1 team. But our tech person, without Murray, we wouldn't have been able to get this done.